You're listening to Season 3 of That's Not How a Baby Sleeps. I'm your host, Alicia Daishon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Eleni Katsinis. We're not your average sleep consultants, no cry it out or sleep training at all for that matter.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. How's the weekend? I guess I didn't talk to you last week. How was Nora's birthday?
It was lovely. We had lots of birthday celebrations, so we had lots of fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
How are you doing?
That's exciting. Okay, hanging in there. Yeah, usual.
I know.
We're trying to get booked in for a whole bunch of camping and stuff this summer because you have to book 3 months in advance for all the provincial campgrounds. So I have calendar dates set for when I get up early and then have to quickly refresh the cart.
Oh, that's funny. All these things to look forward to. I can't believe we're already thinking about summer. I was just talking about this with somebody because I forgot what I was saying, but Nora's school year, so it ends in May, at the end of May. Which is just earlier for her program. I mean, I'm probably still going to homeschool her throughout the summer, just more loosely. But I was like, how is this already over? How are we already thinking about summer camps and vacations? And it's fun, right? But to look forward to, but I know how quickly it is. So it's I have to soak it all in.
It's funny how when you're younger, things go by so slowly. And then once you have kids, it's just it was just Christmas. I don't understand how we're already talking about summer. It's crazy. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about time check-ins when it comes to sleep training and why babies cry more usually with those, or often. I mean, depends. Obviously, the really easygoing babies, yeah, you might not get a lot crying. But a comment that I see frequently on sleep training posts are that not all sleep training is cry it out. And I understand that there's gentler methods that a lot of people like to try before they go moving into that cry it out method. But even when I was going through my initial sleep certification, our trainers were kind of pushing us towards that. It's well, the chair method or pick up, put down, they're not going to work for some temperaments of babies, obviously. And you might have to move it up to Ferber or eventually full extinction, full cry it out. So I think a lot of the time parents end up in that situation, especially if they are working with a sleep consultant, because sleep consultants are trained with the basic step-by-step, this is the method you use. And then when it doesn't work or the child is escalating and crying more, they're well, it might be better just to stay out of the room and do full cry it out. So I feel a lot of families don't initially want to get there, but then they eventually do end up having to move towards that type of a method. Just to break down the sleep training, obviously time check-ins are the same as Ferber, where you're going in different intervals. I know there's other methods now that they've developed that you come in and you soothe them in a specific way. I think there's one called the wave or something, where you go in a wave and say nice things to your baby and then leave. Again, just not really being in tune with your child. We obviously know that children need contact from their primary caregiver in order to actually regulate. It's why we don't use sleep training.
I was just going to say the wave. What an enticing name, right? It sounds wow, how lovely, a wave. When you think of an ocean wave, it's calming and relaxing, but that's not what you're doing when you're doing these time check-ins. And it's just upsetting to hear this is what, they're pushing on new moms.
Yep, not fun at all. And with all of these methods, they're strict step-by-step. This is what you do. The support is really limited. It's controlled. You're going against your instincts in general. So those are all moments of being misattuned with your child from an attachment aspect. Yeah, they're marketed as gentler. And I see that a lot too in the comments as well. It's well, we just did a gentle version of Ferber. It was only this amount of time and this amount of time. And I'm you're still leaving your child to cry alone and going in intervals. I understand, probably due to the marketing, how it can seem like it's okay because you're going in and trying to comfort them and stuff. But it usually does result in more tears. And that's just because babies are wired for that proximity, that connection. They co-regulate with you. And we talk about this all the time. But when they eventually self-soothe or fall asleep independently, it's not because they've soothed themselves. That's not neurologically a thing with small babies and even toddlers. We don't see even signs of emotional regulation until the age of 3. And that comes with tons and tons of co-regulation. And that's just signs of it, where it's oh, we've been practicing this and supporting. You might get a little bit of it, but it's still kind of hit or miss with a 3-year-old, right? We just don't have those brain parts. So when you come in, they see you, smell you, hear you, expect comfort, and then you don't fully meet that need, and then you leave again. So obviously they're going to escalate from an attachment aspect. It just makes sense.
I just always think about this when it comes to any other aspect of your child's life, or even with an adult. I always think about these methods with sleep during the day, or like when your partner comes home and like, oh, I just really need a hug. You're like, well, sorry, you have to wait 5 minutes and then I can give you a hug.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just when you really dissect it and talk about and think about it. And we talk about this with people, are like, oh, like this is crazy. I'm like, I know it is, but they're marketing it so well. Like they're making it sound so good. And if a gentle sleep consultant is marketing anything to you saying it's gentle, but it's telling you not to use your instincts the way that you should, it is not gentle. You are talking about that mis-attunement like we talked about. And it's really stinks because they're giving us a bad name because we truly are gentle and they're not. So it's just like, and like you said, temperament is huge. Like temperament is definitely going to play the biggest factor in all of this. Like how you learned in your certification, those highly sensitive kids went full on cried out because the time check-ins did not work for them. Of course it didn't, right? Because as soon as they see you, they're more sensitive and they're very sensitive to touch and support and sound. Like they need that physical support, right? We're not giving that to them and they're just gonna get more upset.
Yeah, they're just gonna escalate. So, and another thing too is like when these methods are not working, you'll hear things like, oh, they're just crying harder because they're protesting the change and you just need to keep being consistent. And if you're not being consistent enough, well, maybe we just need to move to full cry it out. So like the argument of like not all sleep training is cried out. I mean, I guess if you have like a super easygoing baby that maybe cries for like a couple minutes and then falls asleep independently, and like those situations also frustrate me because I'm like, that probably wasn't even necessary and I could have probably solved your problem with like a couple minor tweaks to a schedule and you wouldn't have even had to leave your child to cry alone. Like it would have been such a simple fix, which obviously with like highly sensitive babies, there's more stuff that kind of goes into what we're doing. Like we're looking at sensory needs, we're really understanding their temperament, looking at those sleep needs. Like there's a lot of more factors when you're dealing with a child who's a little bit more on the sensitive side. But regardless, like you could probably solve that all with like a quick little, I just don't like sleep training in general. I'm like, you don't need it.
What
Anyways,
drives me nuts is when you hear like, oh, there's different cries. Like, of course we know there's different cries, like you know your baby best, but like there's a cry when they need you versus the cry that they don't need you. I'm like, what? Like no matter what, when your child's crying, they need you. Like even as our grown children, they're grown, right? And they understand things. And Nora does have like a fake cry, but it's like it's attention seeking.
It's attention seeking. Yeah, you know the cause of the fake cry.
There's a reason. Now that she's older, she can communicate that to me. But like your baby's crying, that's the only way they can communicate that to you. And this is also to think about, like if you need, I always want to bring this up because I never want moms to feel bad because so many moms get overwhelmed. They put their baby in their crib to like take a 5-minute break and then their baby screams their head off. But like that happens to all of us. If you need that break, take that break, you know? So like that is not sleep training. Or even like if your baby is crying in the car for 10 minutes when you're driving, that's not like I feel like moms get confused with that. And that's so different because you're still trying to comfort them, whatever. Like it's just different, right? It's like
it is.
You're making the crib like a scary place. Like I feel like that's the biggest thing to keep talking about. Like so many people are like, oh my gosh, my child hates the crib or they hate sleep. I'm like, well, do you blame them? Like, they know that you're going to be separated from them the moment they get put in that crib, the moment that they start the bedtime routine, like all those things, they know that separation's coming. Like even if little babies, they know. So it's just
And a lot of sleep trainers too, they'll be like, no, like don't let your baby play in the crib. And I get that question quite a bit. And from moms who are like, I heard that that's not a good thing. And we're always like, yeah, like make sure they're spending time in the crib. They need to associate it with a safe place to be in order to connect sleep cycles there. But the reason behind that is because they operate under the idea that the child has to fall asleep independently, right? Yeah. So it's like, well, if they go in the crib, you put them in, they're fully awake or drowsy but awake, they're going to start playing because they associate it with playtime. And I'm like, no, not if they're set up for optimal sleep and you're transferring them to sleep. Like it's just why, we don't use those types of methods. But even with like the gentler methods, they all operate under the idea that the child has to fall asleep independently in order to sleep well at night. And I think that's the most confusing part is because like that's not true. Like the majority of the clients that we work with support their kids to sleep in some way, shape, or form. And we don't operate like that. Like it doesn't matter. That is like the least of my worries when it comes to supporting a family, unless their main goal is like, hey, I gotta like stop rocking this like 20-pound baby to sleep. It's killing me kind of a thing. It's like, let's shift to an association that does work for your child and yourself. But all those gentle methods are still obsessed with this like independence thing. And I just am like, it's just so unnecessary. You could take some of those methods, like for example, like the pick up, put down method or the chair method, and tweak them in a way where you're still following your instincts and meeting your child where they are, and like layering in additional sleep associations and maybe gradually pulling back. I don't think you can do it very easily with like a highly sensitive child, but if you have a child who is pretty easygoing, you're like, yeah, I think this kid could probably fall asleep independently, and that would be really nice for my family. And it doesn't have to be a big like pick up, put down. Okay, you're going to wait 2 minutes and then you're not going to make eye contact. And then you're going to pick them up for exactly this amount of time, soothe them just this amount, and then put them back down. And then you're going to repeat the process. And it's like, you could just like peel back layers of sleep associations, pick them up as needed, support your child. Oh, you're having a little bit of a harder time with this. I'm going to support you to sleep this time. Like you can follow your instincts and still work on like moving towards more independent sleep without being like completely misattuned with your child by following this like rigid plan that may or may not work for your child depending on temperament, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously we've mentioned that like babies are not able to regulate their own emotions from a heightened state of stress. And when we're following these sleep training approaches, you're not really regulated when your child is crying their eyes out and you're not allowed to like touch them or pick them up, or you're coming through and doing your little wave thing. You're dysregulated, obviously, because we are wired to want to respond to our children. So from like that aspect too, is we're not co-regulating with our children. That stresses them out more and will likely result in them crying even more during these check-ins. So connection is what will actually teach regulation, which is why we want people to be responding regulated to their child and supporting them through that.
I was just going to say, like, even if you're like obviously not sleep training whatsoever, doing these Ferber check-ins, like a lot of clients are like, oh my gosh, my baby won't stop crying at bedtime, right? Like they won't fall asleep. There's probably a lot of reasons why they're fighting bedtime, especially if you are supporting your child to sleep and you're rocking or whatever for a long period of time. So that's why I feel like so many families resort to letting them just cry by themselves. Like, well, they're crying on my arm, so I'll just let them cry by themselves, right? Like in their crib. But obviously, we just talked about this in the last episode. Like it's so much different crying in arms than crying alone and isolated. I feel like that's just something to keep in mind, that if you are listening to this or you do have like a child that's crying excessively for bedtime or naps, like there's something underlying going on.
Yeah,
for sure, that we can help you like, you know, troubleshoot, because I don't want you to sit there and feel like you have to sleep train because your baby's crying for so long. And I always hear like, oh, my baby hates sleep. Like they don't hate sleep, I promise. Everyone needs sleep. So
everyone needs sleep, totally. I'm actually working with a client right now, and her little one, I think, is 5 months old now. And there was like lots of tears before like nap time and stuff. And she's like, I think she's like arching her back, and she like would do that when she was younger and like would be overtired. She was undertired.
Yeah.
It was like the tears stopped, and now she's like not even having to like rock her. She just like sits her on her lap and like just snuggles her and she falls asleep.
That's awesome.
Just minor little tweaks. So like, especially if you're feeling like I'm rocking a 20-pound baby to sleep and it's taking me like an hour, like something's off there. Like the sleep training isn't the answer. I mean, you could do the sleep training and like, yeah, crying burns energy. That might tire them out faster, which is depressing and sad. But like, I think that's a lot of the time what goes on is like they're following these age appropriate schedules, age appropriate wake windows that don't work for their child. And they're still waking up a ton at night, and bedtime's a disaster. And then it's like, well, your only option is to sleep train. Yeah. And we'll start gentle and then we'll go to full cry it out eventually if it doesn't work. And it's like, gosh, it drives me crazy. Yeah. But I think we talked about this a little bit in our baby-led sleep certification, but it might have been another sleep consultant who obviously doesn't use sleep training. But they were talking about how hospitals between, I think it was the 1890s and the 1940s, they actually like limited visitation hours for like sick children in hospital. And it was like, some of them were as little as like an hour and a half a week. And that was because the children cried more when the parents would come and then the parents would leave. And they were like, seeing the parent makes it worse. And like, we obviously understand from like an attachment aspect, it, like the distress is from the separation. It's not the present of the parents. And I can't believe it took them that long to figure it out. But I guess, you know, I'm like, we have so much research on attachment. Even back then they were still researching attachment, but they would just assume it was because the parent was present. And I think that's comparable to kind of those children who really do escalate when the parent comes into the room and when the parent leaves, to like kind of that time checked Ferber check-ins and stuff.
Yeah, especially when it depends on, it is crazy. And then like depends on the parent too. And like this starts like so young, and you see into toddlerhood and a childhood, like your baby and child and toddler like saves all those emotions for you because you're their safest place. So even as a newborn infant, they will do that for their attachment figure. And then, but too, for that age, like they're not gonna, you know, I feel like at that age too, they could have so many attachments, but like I'm sure back then they're probably like maltreated, right? Like these babies are probably just like fed, put down, like
Basic
hours.
needs.
Yeah, basic needs were like met, not like those you should be skin to skin for hours and hours. So no.
Yeah. I can't remember what year that came into play where it was like, hey, it's actually really good to do skin to skin with your infant. It's regulating for them. Now it's like crucial. Like that's usually what most moms are getting for that. What is it called? Like the golden hour?
Yeah, a whole hour.
Just in arms. It's a whole hour. Yeah. I didn't get that with Luna. Actually, Lane got it with Luna, which was like kind of sweet for him, but for me it was kind of crappy because I had to go have a procedure after I had her and stuff. But he enjoyed it. It was great. Like it was good bonding time.
Yeah, at least one parent got it.
Yeah, totally. But like the poor parents who end up like with their preemies and they like might miss out on that kind of stuff. It just sucks. I feel so bad about it. But I'm glad that at least in hospitals they know that that's normal now. I think even too with Aylin, when we went into the hospital to have her, Lane was so surprised. He's like, "Oh, so the baby gets to stay in the room with us?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "It's not." He's like, "Well, I always saw like in the movies, the babies would like all go sleep in a nursery together." I'm like, "No, they're not taking my newborn baby away. What do you mean?"
The 90s anymore, and that's just like movies and shows too. Like my mom made us like my mom is not from here, right? So she's from Greece, and just like if they told her anything, I'm sure she's like, "No, you're keeping my baby with me. You're not taking my baby away."
It's like I just birthed this human, and you're just gonna sweep them away. It's so bizarre, but I'm just glad that we're raising our kids in a generation where we know how important this type of stuff is. But yeah, I always thought that was just so insane. So like to read about how hospitals were run back in the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just absolutely wild. So just to reiterate, like crying during check-ins doesn't mean that something is wrong. It's just normal. And we should probably, if that's bothering you, if you're really struggling with that aspect, we should probably figure out a different approach to support your child's sleep than, traditional sleep training. But obviously we do what we do because it's not, your options are not cried out or waited out. We can focus on those emotional needs, those physical needs, optimizing those sleep foundations and just really understanding like sleep pressure, timing, environment, like all the sleep science stuff and figuring out your child's unique sleep needs to optimize sleep. And if, something isn't working for your family anymore, we can gradually move away from a sleep association that might not be working while still being responsive to your child and meeting those needs and not stressing yourself out personally, and really just support, like we talked about last week, is just supporting emotions through those changes and that whole process. So for parents who've tried check-ins and they felt awful, that doesn't mean you failed. I know a lot of people online, they'll be like, I tried sleep training and I just couldn't do it, I failed. I'm like, no, you just did what was biologically normal and responded to your child because it felt gross. And parents who are feeling stuck, there definitely are other ways.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to connect with us beyond the podcast. You can find me on all social media platforms at moonbay.sleep. And for more sleepy goodness, you can head over to Instagram and follow Eleni at Rooted in Sleep. Until next week, keep embracing the chaos.